I'm humbled and honored to be able to represent my company here this morning. First, I have to give some context. Investors know Procter & Gamble by this. We're a large, successful company, about $80 billion. 4 billion times a day, somebody uses one of our products somewhere in the world. We are also a very old company. We started in 1837, like before commercial electricity, right? And, you know, we began paying dividends in the 1890s. We've increased our dividend every year for the last 55 years. This is why I can talk to you, right? We're in the business of making shareholders happy. And the other thing about P&G is we innovate to grow. Okay, so that's P&G. Here's how I hope most of you know our company. These are the brands that represent our company. I might suspect that many of you don't know Procter & Gamble makes these products, right? These are because our relationship with you is through the brand. And that's the way we choose to do this. Among these brands are some very large brands. These are our billion-dollar brands. One of those there is Pampers. It's an $8 billion brand. One brand, $8 billion. It did not exist as a product category in 1965. You couldn't buy one. No one even thought it was a good idea in 1965, even though babies had been around. Okay, so that's our company. Now, why am I talking to you all, right? Pretty boring stuff, right? Let's put it this way. In all the speakers before right now, none of you highlighted a disposable diaper as one of those game-changing technical products, right? Managing body fluids of young children. And that doesn't even talk about Charmin and a few others up there. So why the rocket science? Well, it turns out these everyday products have a lot more behind them than you know. And in our advertising on television, we don't get the guy with the white coat going, "We've computer analyzed your toilet paper for you." Right? That might scare people. That is not the way we do it. So what do? We have a cartoon bear. Those of us in the product technology business hate our advertising, and our advertisers are very happy that that's true because we're not the demographic. So, but what I am to tell you about is the rocket science for these everyday products. And it's about managing contradictions, right? So one of those contradictions is about materials. We want things to be strong, but they have to be soft. Stretch but not break. Breathe but contain. Break but not tear. The difference between a Bounty towel and a cheap paper towel is how it tears off the roll. Now that doesn't sound like and that it's absorbent. But the first one, that doesn't sound like a particularly difficult thing to do, right? Until you realize you make them at 200 inches wide and 40 miles an hour. And put a perf exactly accurately at that speed, right? That's very difficult to do. Packages, creative design, right, drives sales. If I showed you, which we don't make, but if I showed you a bottle of A1 steak sauce without the label on it, you would immediately know what it was, because that shape defines that product. And people hate to shop for groceries, right? A car, maybe, but our stuff, right? Oh, great, let's go to the grocery store. I love to walk up and down the aisles and look for stuff. This is not what people like. They want to go, where's the orange thing? Where's that funky shape? You know, they make that decision in seconds. Also, here's one, never leak but open easily. Yeah, we're not doing the open easily very good. Yeah, but that's hard to do. There's a lot of engineering about never leak and open easily. Here's one, formulations. Protect your fabric but remove stains. You know, we complain when we get ink in our shirt and we have to throw the shirt away. Remember, what is ink for? Right? It's supposed to record something that doesn't go away. So it's pretty hard. I can make the ink go away, you just won't want the shirt. But here's one we said this morning just to bring it up, and Dr. Patel brought it up, so I'm going to bring it up. How much, do you know what the percentage of energy that the households use to heat water to wash clothes? That number is over 3%. Here's a clue. Go home, do the most important energy thing you can do right now. Go home and use cold water Tide. Wash your clothes in cold water. You know, the guys are going, I don't know, wash my clothes. And all the women are going, oh, I don't know, I'm not washing underwear in cold water. So here's what I'm telling you. Cold water Tide works. But it's formulated to work in cold water. Also, we want liquids that are mixtures. We don't make Newtonian fluids. We don't make things that are solutions. We make mixtures. Have them not separate, not trivial. All right, so that's one problem that we deal with is performance. The other one is scale. How to sell $1 billion, right? We sell 80 billion, so how do you make $1 billion? One way, which is the high-tech way, right? Make one submarine or two or a half and sell it to the U.S. government. We're not in the submarine business. We're at the other end. We make 2 billion disposable diapers, right? So that's, now, it turns out the machine that makes those disposable diapers actually is one of the most complex machines known to mankind and is more secretly guarded, I think, than Los Alamos, and I've been to Los Alamos, right? Meaning none of you likely will have ever seen or will ever see a machine that makes a disposable diaper because it contains 50 years of trade secrets, right? So, and it's very sophisticated. Why? Because we have, think how much labor can be in a thing that costs a quarter, right? Like Larry never touches it. Let's put it that way. It's like that product, the raw materials are hung and it shows up in a truck with totally automated. And if it isn't that, you can't make it for a quarter or 50 cents. It's about that simple. And then it's $1 and $2 and then people don't use it. So it's about, that's the world of scale. So in fact, to that point, I can show you this because it's very old, right? This is every flicker is a diaper, and I can show you this because those were defects. This is a defect tape, and that machine in the lower left corner that's making the noise is 15 years old. Today, it doesn't make that much noise, and it's much faster. But that's what that world looks like. Now, I'm in the modeling and simulation business, and we model things in this world from the atoms to the enterprise. I worry about the computational chemistry of mixtures. I worry about the biomechanics of how a diaper fits on a baby. I worry about a bronze shaver when it drops on the floor. I worry about how we mix toothpaste. I worry about how bottles fall over on a conveying line, machines that make disposable diapers, the supply chain throughput, and scheduling problems associated with this. These are all the computational environments of our world. We have multiple hundreds of people who make their full-time living doing nothing but doing modeling and simulation of these products and their production systems. So our technical challenges, it turns out, have led, why I'm here today, I think, to a long-standing collaboration with the world's best scientists. We have collaborated with Los Alamos since 1993. Well over a dozen CRADAs, $20 million of in-kind from us, and $20 million cash from us, funds in, working with Los Alamos scientists on multiple technologies from reliability to multi-phase turbulent flow. We've worked with Sandia National Labs since '99, multiple CRADAs. I actually sit on an Engineering Sciences Research Foundation advisory since the middle of the last decade. We've worked with Oak Ridge and are currently doing so on soft materials and molecular mechanics of those, dynamics. We've worked on argon from everything from, if you will, agent-based models to, we've had an Insight Award on ComChem there, PNNL on materials renewable. And we also work with NSF and NCSA. We've sponsored multiple and are participating in NSF ERCs. So we are in the high-tech business. We don't talk about it very much, but I wanted to at least have you know that this is the engagement. We see that we walk on the, if you will, on the shoulders of giants with this, and it has made a difference in everyday life. I can tell you the disposable diapers are better today, they're cheaper today because of our engagement with the nuclear weapon scientists. So this is an example of our latest InSight activity doing Michael Klein out of Temple who's worried about cells. It turns out there's something called a vesicle that keeps products from separating. And so we do coarse-grained molecular dynamics studies of vesicle formation, right? So this is actually something that's happening in our product. So you would know this as something like a Gillette body wash. What its rheology is driven by behavior at the molecular scale. We do a lot of solid mechanics work. I'm not going to go through this for anybody that wants to read heavily into implicit and explicit finite element. But this is the problem that you don't want this to happen when you drop your bronze shaver on the floor. Fortunately, I can show you the detail of this because this design never got made. Every one of those little parts in there have its own mold, and every mold costs $50,000 and 8 weeks to make. So this is a design that would have never worked, so you don't make it. You design it like it's just no different than auto crash, right? We just don't want to make this design because that part will fail. So we also do a lot of computational fluid dynamics work, everything from free surface flow. Here's my favorite. Free surface flow of non-Newtonian fluids on and through a compressible porous media with absorption and reactivity. That's a baby pooping in a diaper. And I'm not going to show you that today because it's just before lunch. So this is actually making toothpaste. So we want to put something in a toothpaste tank. First of all, some creative genius came up with this mixer, which it looks like it ought to work, right? It's got airplane wings and all kinds of stuff. All in, it sucks, okay? As mixers go, you don't want to put something in the top and have it not come out the bottom. This is actually something that we had the chance to show the presidents last summer. This is actually the Los Alamos simulations that we use for making disposable diapers, with the CFD Live with flip markers. This is a multi-phase turbulent flow with material accumulating at a rotating boundary. It's actually a much harder problem than one might guess, and we actually solved it well over almost a decade ago and have continued to improve it since. Here's what you don't want to have happen to a bottle of Tide in Walmart. And I'll tell you, Walmart doesn't want this to happen, right? Because now, here's an interesting contradiction. We don't want a lot of material in our landfill, right? But we have to have a package that doesn't break when it drops. Turns out, very hard problem. This is multi-phase, multi-physics, complex geometries, and is a current problem that we're working on. So, looking ahead, we have to, in our world, I have to tackle ever more bigger, complex problems, right? Just like the auto industry needs to stop, doing simulations on crash dummies and start predicting hematoma, right? Which is a complex physics and biological problem. I've got to improve red marking on diapers. I've got to improve rash and other performance issues, right, which are biomechanical in nature. We have to solve the larger equation sets. To do molecular dynamics and predict stability of materials, I'm talking about billions of atoms, right? And I need to do parametric studies, right? Stop giving me single estimates. I've got to predict things on the full range of statistical reality. And the other thing that we haven't talked about today but is related to the productivity, we have to democratize analysis to non-analysts. If TurboTax can do it, right, for home use, I need to be doing that with finite element, computational fluid dynamics, molecular dynamics. Now, it turns out every scientist will go, oh my God, we're going to give a very complex thing and they'll ruin the field. Well, then we need to write the software that prevents them from doing that. Put in the things that say, if the Reynolds number's here, then go from there. So with that, I'm going to close my remarks and say thank you very much.
Some questions for Tom?
I actually was hoping to hear about potato chips, which is talked about on your webpage, and there must be enormous improvements in speed performance due to aerodynamic analysis. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, so to make it a short, we are the maker of Pringles, but that brand was actually in the process of being sold to a company that is now not able to buy it anymore. So unfortunately, I've left the Pringles, aerodynamics of Pringles out of my speech, but we did aerodynamics of Pringles to make them go faster. If you think we make diapers fast, right, it takes us a few days to make 1 billion diapers. It takes us a few hours to make 1 billion Pringles. So it is a aerodynamically challenging problem, but I'll leave it at that.
I was wondering if you could say a few words about the models themselves, their lifespan, development time, what skills are required to make such models. Are they only available to, say, a P&G size company?
Yeah, this is part of the productivity challenge. I think part of the widening gap is the fact that the barriers to entry are accessible to a large company who can afford multiple hundreds. You know, I have 50 people who do nothing but finite element analysis. The software that tends to be involved is the most sophisticated. In many ways, the commercial versions are well over 40 grand a seat. And if you start talking about hundreds of cores. So for the most part, the models are created by experts. What we do, I think, which is a little different, is we automate them and give them to what I would call just regular engineers. And that's probably a little different. But the problem is I can afford to do that. We find that in our supply chain, you go just below us, just below the multinational, the same usual suspects, and there's nothing. And this is a major gap for us.
The lifetime of a model.
So the lifetime itself is, if you will, simulation lifecycle management is one of our biggest topics today. They're not very good. They're a handful of years, and they become unusable, either because the software progresses or the people who wrote them forgot about them. So in fact, I have a challenge to my group that any analysis we do has to be able to be recreated in 5 years by somebody different than who did it. Today, I would say less than 10 to 15% of our models fit that category, which is quite unfortunate. Yes?
Fascinating. I'm interested, where in a company like yours do you make environmental decisions? So, for instance, if you're doing Tide cold water wash, who decides how much of whatever byproducts get put into the water supply, or with disposable diapers and so on? Is that centralized? Do you model that? How do you make decisions like that?
Well, certainly something that has as dramatic environmental impact as water quality it is something that permeates from the technical community to our most our senior executives. We currently do not have phosphates in our detergents, and that was and your clothes will struggle being as clean because of that. So that is a decision that we took. Tide cold water, a decision that what our senior management says is, look, most people don't want to compromise. They want quality. They want clean clothes. Give them clean clothes and clean water. And that's the challenge to us. And when the trade-off has to get made, that decision has to get made at the highest level. And our job as scientists and engineers is to not have them make that decision. Right? We want clean water and clean clothes.
Last question.
Tom, great talk. I want to connect your talk to Eric's. Given the productivity gains that you've seen in your industry, how has it impacted workforce? How has it impacted recruiting and talent?
Well, first thing I'm going to say I don't think it's affected our industry. It's affected us and a few companies who have chosen to invest in it. But I think the consumer goods business in general is not one of those industries that you talk about in the same high-tech breath. And I don't mean to make that as an arrogant statement. I'm just saying it is only a few of the top companies that are the competitors, the Kimberly-Clarks, the L'Oreals, the Unilevers. It's not the all other brands on the shelf that are doing that. But how does it affect workforce? We hire the best people, and we compete. When I show up at the university and I'm going, hey, come work on toilet paper, I'm telling you it's cool, and they go, geez, I got this offer from Los Alamos, so I think I want to go do that, right? So at some level, I'm competing for the same scientists and engineers that all of our scientists are. And now, the one thing that I can say is that we try to get people excited about the problem, not the fact they're making toilet paper. Because, you know, when it's a multi-phase turbulent flow problem, when it's a free surface flow on and through, you know, compressible porous media, it looks the same as fracking and groundwater. It also looks the same as, it's the same science. So our workforce development, we have, I have a growing cadre of people who make this their living. And it's a good gig. I like it. Best job in the world.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Eric and Tom.